Good morning. It's my second book review. I have finished the Tavistock Institute one. It was a thin one. It was a good one. There's a lot of information packed in there. Just backs up everything that, I've read before about what the hell's going on. But he just succinctly described what's happening. So that's good. It's not anything to be frightened about. Now, this book is a harder reading book. This, when I first started reading about what they're doing in the ionosphere and transhumanism, right? So that was about 3 years ago that I read a really good book about it from a pretty well-renowned science person, but also science, like true science, not scientism, and spiritual sort of awareness and awareness of consciousness. And she wrote it. She'd been studying it, and it was pretty, yeah. And so I backed away from it, and now I'm full into it, because really what you have to understand is what you're seeing in the world is all distractions away from this. So it's the Geo-engineered Transhuman, the hidden technologies of HARP, chemtrails, 5G, 6G, nanotechnology. We should put CERN in there too. Synthetic biology, the scientific effect to transform humanity. So I've just gotten started with this. This is written by Elana Freeland. She's written quite a few books about this. It's all backed up. It's all referenced. Right? It's not, conspiracy theory. It's a conspiracy fact. And I think that she says it quite well. And I'll read this first before I kind of discuss a few of the things that she talks about. So as I was saying about distraction, everything, the Epstein, the this, the divide, the immigration, all of it are hiding in the background. What's happening, this infrastructure towards AI, complete control basically in robotics. And you will see it just keeps getting more rapid, the rate of which we move towards this, but also the rate that many people don't understand exactly what is happening. Because again, they're dual use. So they're looked at, they're sold as convenience or going to make you more healthy. I was listening to a guy that I like to listen to. He's a doctor. He speaks about AI precision medicine, and that doctors will, of course, they've used you. Your use, and nurses, they used you too, you dancing nurses, during the vid, for AI precision medicine. And we know from what I've looked at and what I've discussed over the years is that technocracy and transhumanism is nothing more than eugenics dressed up for the 21st century. So this is a eugenics cult, a death cult. You're going to have your medical system. It's pretty much run by it now, right? The decisions are not their own. They're tapping into AI already, but pretty soon because they're producing every second of the day, they're working towards this agenda with humanoid robots, and they're set to really take over. I know where I am here, and I'm out in the middle of friggin' nowhere. They're updating the electrical system and the internet and Wi-Fi system. I mean, it's for where I am, you wouldn't think it should be like this, but it is. But it's not for human beings. It's for human 2.0, which is the machine. Right? So this is the infrastructure being built. In big cities and stuff like that, the infrastructure is already there. In where I am, it's just starting to come to fruition. But people believe it's there to give them better internet service. No, actually it isn't. Right? It's not there for your benefit. So as I get into a little bit of what she talks about, right, you need to look at it. You need to understand where you're going so that you can make a decision about which path you're going to go, right? Is there a middle ground through this? These are questions I ask because it's not like I've gone through this before, but I face looking at it because I think it's necessary to help you just enjoy the moment we're here. Here I am, another day, right? All of us, we get another day. So what are we going to use our mentation for? So what she says, and I like this because I believe it to be true, just in my own experience of living. She said, many who have not read my previous geoengineering books may find what I post here in this book to be overwhelming and feel a sense of despair of what can I do? Well, we can do something. But true human beings are endowed with an innate connection, fractal antennas, your DNA, to the divine. And we're the divine spark. And we have the ability to exercise free will. We can choose. Something that machine intelligence, no matter how technologically advanced it gets, will always lack. Just as it lacks creativity, it steals all the information that it's storing. It's not it didn't create the information, it stole it from you. So we're the creative being, which is an expression of our connection to the divine spark, to the spiritual selves. As quantum physics points out, consciousness precedes materiality, and it, in fact, shapes all material form. They've done that with the observer effect. That's these mirror, right? Why do we have mirror neurons? It mirrors back what you believe to be. So I believe that my human body has enough energy to fight off all this shit that they've been throwing at us. And they have indeed been throwing shit at us. So this is from a little quote from Wilhelm Reich. He was a man that was totally against totalitarian control, and this was sort of the Cold War era. So, because he lived from 1897 to 1957. But remember, this shit has been going on in the background for fucking ever. Really, forever, I believe, since whatever created us and put us down here, 250, we did not evolve from apes. That's not us. There's actually evidence of genetic tampering with our genes. So this is what Wilhelm had to say, and this is rather long, but I think it's important. It is not rational to assume that wars are always fought only the way we know them, like kinetic wars, World War II, World War I. We must permit ourselves to think of war as a silent, unnoticed, slow-working, but deliberate destruction of life on a planet, a satellite, or even a star. We must be ready to change every single view that we have held sacred if it's contradicted by new facts and new experience. That's what real science is. Scientism is that's propaganda. War may be going on right now with no one being aware of it, with men dying, with trees bending like rubber hoses, green pastures turning into dust bowls, with academia and civil institutions, captured, explaining it away as just this or that, climate change. In short, it may turn out correct that what would otherwise feel inclined to ascribe to a schizophrenic mind, delusional, namely that instead of shooting at the victims of war with bullets, one could very well sap our life energy out of the victims of war, us, with machines, which operate according to the orgamic potential of cosmic energy. So in this book about plasma, right, and a new definition, the new science of heaven, they speak of people that back in the 1900s, they believe this orgasmic energy, orgon, was an energy field, right, and that it spurred creation, which, of course, right? So that when they talk about this organic energy, it's a life energy that comes from the lower down to the upper, right? This cosmic energy. David Hughes calls it an omni-war. It's the same thing. It is a silent war. The wars are not, it's the war for your mind. It's the war from your cognition. So they're changing us, and I've read this before, for over the last 5 years, 6. So they want to change human 1.0 to biohuman, which is 2.0. And they have not given you a choice about this. They're going to do it whether you fucking like it or not, right? Everything that you see happening out there in this omni-war is moving towards this. Good old Ray Kurzweil, fucking crazy bastard. He talks about transhumanism. Remember, transhumanism is a eugenics, and Ray Kurzweil would be big up there on the eugenics. It's eugenics. There are some that get to be gods and, their consciousness lives forever, right? This singularity. And they're forcing us to enter this cyborg age. So thus the delivery system called chemtrails up in the sky there is loaded with nanoscale heavy metals, red blood cells, polymer fibers, natural and synthetic fungus, oxides, proteins, unbelievable tiny microprocessors. Remember, everything's at a quantum level. Micro rotors, micro circuit boards, and more, and none of which is jet fuel debris at all. And we're all breathing and ingesting this to varying levels towards transhumanism. Where I was back in Ontario, very much so. They've been doing all kinds. It's called Project Cloverleaf. It was a joint spraying program between the US and Canada. And it was a covert, and it began in the 1990s. So just I'll give you a little education about how this system, this ionosphere, and she does a lot of talking about the weaponization of the ionosphere. So the ionosphere, it surrounds the Earth 50 to 60 miles, 80 to 1,000 kilometers above the troposphere. The troposphere is the air we breathe, so that's where we live. It is naturally ionized by solar radiation, but has been weaponized with electromagnetic technologies like ionostatic heaters and lasers and all the shit that they're blowing into the air. Project, look it up, Cloverleaf. She gives some of the sites in this book. This book is worth buying. And it's not very expensive, these books. Geez, I wonder why. They don't push them, right? I don't want you to know all this stuff of where all these, the HARP installation and these ionosphere heaters are. They're all over the place. All over the place. Things that amplify it. So a little bit more of what she says in here. Global Predator, I like that. Global Predator Inc., it's the Department of Weather Warfare. So the government said a long time ago that by 2025, they would have weaponized the weather. And by God, they have. They really have. This Project Cloverleaf, as I told you, there was a doctor lived in a certain area that was being sprayed. And what he said about this program of aerial spraying, he concluded that these ultrafine airborne particle matter are really not good for our health. They're dangerous. So what they've found in them is these conductive nanometals, as well as genetically engineered funguses, red blood cells, nanobots, nanosensors, nanosymbiote, synthetic and biological is what that means. Then it gets more interesting, and it kind of feeds back in with plasma, and that 99.9% of our world is made of plasma, natural plasma. But what these guys are doing is creating their own dusty plasma. So what happens a lot, they can charge particles of dust, a quanta, but you can't see it with the human eye. And you have these dusty plasma fields, because he talks about it in the new Science of Heaven. These dusty plasma clouds in between the Earth and the Moon. There are two large ones of these plasma fields, which are, remember, we're energy beings. These are like compacted energy clouds that are paired with dust particles. And so these guys have figured out how to do this, right? So dusty plasmas, they're full of charged nanoparticles. And they're basically, these ones are all cooked up down here, and then they're put up into the troposphere where we breathe, right? And they're military and commercial jets that are doing this. And then this smart dust falls. Because what they really want to do is track every living thing on Earth. She talks about this net, this grid that is around us with low orbit satellites, ones that are inside, the field here, right? Ones that are outside, low orbiting, high orbiting. They've weaponized that. And the ionosphere is completely controlled by them. This changing of dust particles into charged dust particles, where many scientists, of course, they sign gag orders, right? This guy researched all kinds of stuff and vast majorities of information he couldn't get his hands on, right? Because these scientists sign gag orders about plasma, but what he speaks about is the fact that they're inorganic life. So what are they doing when they've weaponized that whole field and they're creating these dusty plasmas that we breathe into our body, right? So think of that. That's the first part of the book. And then you think of the frequencies that they're using for this silent war that Wilhelm Reich spoke about, right? That is happening right now, because it is happening right now. Because it's a total 180 away from what humans are. They don't want humans anymore. They don't need us. And I don't think that people see how rapidly this is being ramped up. With the police forces being looked at as complete morons and the justice system, who do you think they're going... In a technocracy, which you now live in, who do you think they're going to get to control that system? Well, they're already. Is AI, but then they're going to put robotics in. And they're working on it, as I said, all the time. So you're going to have precision policing, I'm sure. They're already moving rapidly towards precision healthcare. So the crux of the matter is, we can't, as I said in my last video, the box is open. Pandora's box is open. And those who are controlling these technologies, these advanced technologies, have been doing nefarious shit behind your back for a long time and not giving you any consent about what's happening in your life. And most jobs will be taken over by robotics. Like, I have a friend that works here. He's a delivery. He drives truck and delivers. Do you think that self-driving trucks are becoming far more commonplace? And because they're making the system, they're enhancing the system for that, you are going to see that. And then robotics, because then they only have to pay once for this equipment, right? Do a little maintenance, but they don't have to worry about human beings and all the folly of that. And the thing is, most people don't see it coming. And again, this universal basic income will be looked at as, something good. You won't have to work for your money. And what will happen is that people need to have a sense of need. That a need that they have purpose in their life, that they're contributing something. And a lot of what you see, because now we treat people like machines in their work, people don't feel that. They don't get a sense of satisfaction. It's basically slavery, right? Harder and harder working conditions, more and more hours, just to be able to put something on your table to eat, right? And making it harder and harder for you to be able to go out and forage for food. They don't want you going in the bush. They don't want you foraging for food. They don't want you hunting for food. They don't want you to be self-sufficient. They want you to rely on the machine. And Kurzweil, the crazy Google dude, he's very open about it. They all are, right? That with AI, we'll do all the food. You'll have food that's made, dead food that's made in a lab, right? And AI will feed it to you. You won't have real food. They'll have real food, but you won't, the masses, because they're experimenting on you all, because this has got nothing to do with health. So, and another thing that I watched and I like is Gene Nolan inspired. And there are many that see this as a crossroads. We're at a crossroads. What are you going to choose? Are you going to choose this technocratic, transhumanistic world? Or are you going to understand your sovereign nature? You're born with it. No one gives it to you. God doesn't give it to you. You're born a free being. We're free in our minds, right? That's where freedom resides. And so we can, from moment to moment, design the life that we want. That is possible. Even in this, where we're facing this challenge like has not been seen in recorded history, in that a large segment of society doesn't even see the war that they're in. right? They're fighting with the immigrants, they're fighting with their neighbors, they're fighting with the black person, they're fighting with the white person, they're fighting with the trans person, they're fighting with the gay person, they're fighting with the homeless person. You see, all the chaos is manufactured. Nothing is natural or organic. It's all, as the Tavistock's done, is socially engineered. So we're being moved towards this point. And don't think that they don't know that there's dissent too, and that they watch all this stuff. AI does. Knows us. Knows exactly. They're 10 steps ahead of us where we are. But that doesn't mean I'm going to stop being me. And do I like technology? To some degree, I do. I think it can indeed, as a tool, make things more convenient, right? I like that I can do my banking online. I don't mind that. I like having cash in my hand. I like that. I'll keep cash for as long as I can. I think that we need to change our thinking about change. And there is something that happens with very rapid change. You can go into fight and flight and stay there and really hold on to the old. And the old is gone. It's gone. That world is gone. It does not exist. If it ever did, it was an illusion in the first place because it was all socially engineered. We're moving into a new time frame. We're in this mid-ground. And so I guess my whole claim to fame for myself is to walk the midline through this, right? Because I like simplicity. I like the natural world. I don't like where this is going. That everything, you understand, with smart dust, every living thing will be monitored. And these large data centers and the AI take huge amounts of resources. So please, if you think this is environmentalism again, eugenics, it's all eugenics, that the animals are worth more than you are. The people that are polluting, what do you think these, a lot of them are fracking water. The parasites are the ones. It isn't you. It's the parasitical beings that are creating this new biosynthetic world and giving you a biosynthetic soul and disconnecting your DNA. I mean, they're way, 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 way ahead with this agenda of where they're going. And you never got an option in this. You were treated like cattle, and you still are. And it's time to wake up to that. And it's time to wake up to your God-given power. So divinity is the ability to transcend any perceived limitations. You are not limitation. You are pure potential, right? There's many that will be sucked into this technocratic transhumanism. And there'll be others that will flow the other way and create these other communities, as John Nolan, I was about to say, is seeing that. This creation, there's a balance of things, right? This balance that goes on, right? Always the constant battle between light and dark, good and evil, whatever that is a constant battle. And it seems over this area because I think that transhumanism and technocracy, in my mind, is evil. Because it's all about eugenics, taking a life and believing that one life is more superior than the other. And that is a materialistic way, survival of the fittest, right? This Darwinian nonsense, right? It applies to something, but it doesn't apply to us because we came like this 250,000 years ago, right? Our problem is that we have been denuded with that, our DNA being somehow shut down by not using it, actually. If you don't use a set of senses or skills, they atrophy and you lose them. And it's to regain that bit by bit, right? To be the true human that you are. And the true human wins every time. Because remember, the machine has stolen your intelligence. It has no emotional intelligence. It has no creative ability. It has no innovative ability. It cannot innovate. All it does is take what you have. So I see the human spirit when it's pushed against the wall, that actually that's when innovation happens. So I'm I look at the darker side of it because I want to know what they're doing. I want to know. It's my body. I want to know what they're doing, right? I want to be able to educate those that want to listen to this about what they're doing to your body and the magnificence of your body. And don't give it away with technology without trying to be the best that you can be and remember who you are, right? Again, you have free will. They can't, well, they have. They forced it on. That's why I don't think that it can work as well in somebody that's consciously aware that's happening. I think it denudes the potential of that. That's what I think, because we're pretty complex beings. Okay, they wouldn't go to all this trouble to control you if you weren't. Okay, that's my little book report on Elana Freeland's book, The Geo-engineered Transhuman. You don't really want to be a transhuman. It's for them, it's not for you. They're just going to, experiment on you because they're the same ones that experimented on the Jews in Germany and the German people themselves. Okay, adios. Have a good Monday.